Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our career talk today. My name is Van, and I'm going to be your host for today's event. The topic of today's event is how to jumpstart your engineering career in Canada. However, before we dive into this topic, let me share with you a little bit more about our community, Careers in Tech and Engineering in Canada, aka SciTech. SciTech is a community that aims to enable and empower early talent as well as experienced professionals who are new to the Canadian market to build a thriving career in the dynamic fields of tech and engineering. And to this end, here at SciTech, we connect members with industry experts who bring a wealth of knowledge as well as invaluable experiences across a wide spectrum of disciplines in tech and engineering. And this is achieved through a series of career talks like the one today to allow our members to learn from the wisdom of our guest speakers. And with that being said, I am super excited to have my dear friend Asim Zeb, an associate manager from Unilever Canada, one of the leading FMCG companies in the world, join us today and share his wisdom. Hi Asim, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for asking. Well, just to give everyone a bit of context, Asim and I, we have known each other for years. The first time I met with Asim was in 2016 when we were both master students at the University of Leeds. And we were both on our trip from Leeds to London to join an orientation day by the Chevening Scholarship. And obviously, we were very invested in the event and I really enjoyed it. So much so that we almost missed our last bus back to the student dormitory in Leeds. And apparently, Asim wasn't very impressed by the panicking me trying to secure a ticket back to the apartment. And somehow down the line, we ended up becoming best friends throughout university years and have remained very good friends since. So Asim, I know we know each other very well, but a lot of people in the audience today haven't known you yet. So how about you tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, so let's get started. I guess there's someone waiting in the lobby. I'm getting a notification. I don't know if it's cleared or not.
Yeah,
But okay, so
I have admitted.
okay, so basically, just giving a brief about my background. So I have a degree in electrical engineering. I have a master's in electrical engineering, and I started my career in Pakistan. I'm from Pakistan. I got my bachelor's in engineering over there. Then I was working in one of a foods manufacturing industry, and I worked as an engineer over there, looking after utilities operations. After that, I got Chevening scholarship and moved to England to complete my master's from the University of Leeds. I got my master's from there and went back to Pakistan. I joined Unilever in Pakistan in the field of health and safety. I was leading the site operations for health and safety over there. I worked over there for a bit more than 2 years, and then I moved to Canada in 2020. So I have been in Canada for 3.5 years now. And I have been working in Canada in Unilever since I've come over here, and in the field of safety, health, and environment. But overall, my experience pertains to the supply chain. So I have worked in the utilities, in maintenance, in other departments. But right now I'm working in the field of health and safety. So yeah, that's a bit about myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for giving us such a comprehensive picture of your career and how you navigated through your different roles within engineering. Now, let us dive a little bit deeper into your expertise. Tell us more about your area of expertise in engineering and why did you choose to pursue a career in engineering in the first place?
Yeah. So I was interested in engineering when I was a student. So I opted for my degree, and once I got my degree, there are different fields. Once you are an engineer, you can go for them. Some of them are technical, some can be semi-technical, and you can entirely change your fields as well. I have friends who change their fields entirely. But I wanted to pursue a career in supply chain. Supply chain is a very fast industry. It's quite quick. You have to make decisions, have to work in different departments to get different sort of exposure. so I opted for supply chain, and as a trainee engineer, I'd worked in different departments in supply chain, from operations to utilities to health and safety to maintenance. And by the time I was done with my trainee period, I wanted to go for the utility section because power generation, water treatment, steam generation, they kind of attracted me. So I opted for that, got that experience. So while I was working in that field, I got exposure of health and safety as well. So after my master's, I applied for different job positions in different industries and got a few job offers. So one of them was pertaining to the field of health and safety. It is still supply chain, but it's a different field in there. So considering my background in engineering, I opted for that because health and safety mostly deals with interactions with people, and it's mostly related to people management, people influencing the people, dealing with them, getting to know them. So that's kind of something that I felt to be going for. So I went for that, and since then I've been working in that field. But I've expanded just from safety to like I've been looking after health part of it, environment management, as well as last year I took over the security role as well. So I have gradually expanded in this field. But moving on, I'll be targeting to expand further in this field as well as other fields within the supply chain. So that's how I ended up here, and that's what my future looks like if I talk about that.
That's awesome, and that sounds so diverse, your experience working across different areas. So what do you like best in your field?
Sorry?
What do you like best in your field? What is the best thing that you enjoy?
So the best thing for me would be the interaction with people, like getting to know them. Being an engineer, it's mostly about equipment and machines, right? But when you move to supply chain, the interaction transfers towards the people side of it. So health and safety is a field where you interact with them, you make decisions, you work in a way that impacts their life for good. So that basically attracts me, that interaction and the value that I'm putting in. So that basically is something that I'm interested in and attracts me to the field.
That's awesome. And what I'm hearing from your sharing is that you started your career in electrical engineering, and then you made the transition into health and safety, and then recently into supply chain, also at one of the leading FMCG companies in the world. How did you make those transitions happen?
So from my experience, if you need to transition from one field to another, you should at least have a basic level of knowledge of the other field, and you should have the passion and the hunger in you to get that. So if I just talk about supply chain, there are different departments. So while working in the utilities department, for example, just giving my example, like I was looking after the steam generation and power generation operations, but at the same time I was dealing the health and safety aspect of my department at a minor level. So that gave me a good understanding of the field. So when the interest increased in that space, I opted to join it permanently or to move to that field. So having the baseline experience really helped me, and what I think gave me the second edge was the passion that I showed to the team and the willingness or the hunger to change or adapt and learn more. That's what gave me the edge, I would say, and that's how I transitioned. So that's what I'll recommend to the people over here as well. Have the basic knowledge, and then the willingness and the energy that you have to convert to a different field definitely helps you in that space.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's definitely important for us to have such as foundational knowledge, and also show the employers your passion when you want to enter a new field. Show them why you are passionate about that and want to pursue a career in that area. And now let's go back in time, right? Let's go back to when you first moved to Canada. Tell us more about your journey of landing your first job here in Canada. How did you make that happen?
So I'll give the full story. So I applied to Canada as a through Express Entry to get PR, and I got PR when I was in Pakistan. So what I did for my case is that I came to Canada in 2019 just to visit for a few weeks to get a feel of the industry over here, of the jobs over here, how the culture is, how the environment is, to get a basic level understanding. I came here, spent a few weeks over here to get to know. I applied for a few jobs, joined few newcomer. There are different services that are offered by the Canadian government. So I joined a few of them, went to a few seminars to understand the speakers, not just related to my field, but to other fields as well, to get an understanding of it. Then I went back to my country. I had not resigned from my job over there. So I kept working over there, but at the same time, I was actively looking online. What type of job opportunities are there and what other people are going for. Like I had a few friends who were immigrating with me as well, so I was in touch with them. So that was happening. And then in 2020, I was ready to move and I was actively looking for positions. At the same time, I saw a job opening in Unilever over here. It's the same organization, but different countries. So I applied for that online, the regular application process, and went to the interview phase of it. So the interview got cleared and they offered me a position and I was able to get that job. So the background work that I did during that 1 year period of understanding it all really helped me. And one of the benefits that I got was that I was working in the same organization. So I had the understanding of the structure and how it works. So that gave me an advantage as well. So that's how I did it. And yeah, there are different channels that you guys can take, but I opted the channel of doing a soft landing, going back and then coming back again permanently. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what I'm hearing is that do a lot of research and also try to test the water, see what's out there, and a lot of preparation. And also what I'm hearing from you is to connect with your friends, with the connections here, to learn from their own experience and prepare yourself. So what role do networking and professional relationships play in your career development, especially as a newcomer to Canada?
So yeah, networking is really something that is very, I would say, very important in Canada. And if you have to get to know people in your industry and different industry, connect with them on LinkedIn or go to different seminars, talk to them so that you know what's happening around. And when you see a job opening, the people that you connected before, if they're linked to the industry, they're really helpful. Like in Canada, people are really helpful in giving you references if they know you, and if they work in the same industry in which the job opening is, that gives you an edge. And it's not just from the professional or job seeking point of view. So if you are active in connecting with the people, you can even explore small business opportunities to opt into different fields of sales or something else. So I've seen that. I've been connecting with people to work on my end as well, where I can leverage my professional connections to opt for different things. And networking just not has to be in Canada, I'd say. You can go international. Like I have friends in different countries and I've connected with them, and even that has helped me. And when you go for and if you have to get any certifications, for example, these contacts really help you, and you can join different WhatsApp groups, different Facebook groups, and connect through different newcomer programs. So just keep it lightly over there, and when an opportunity arises, just hit it and go for it. So these things really help.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on this. Success doesn't come just only from the knowledge we have or the experience we bring, but also comes from the people we know. So it's definitely very important for us to continue to build our connections, build our network, especially when it comes to building a career in a new country. And so speaking of that, for newcomers who are seeking their first jobs here in Canada, what are the top 3 things they could do in order to quickly land a job offer?
Okay, so what I can recommend in that space, the first one is that the CV or the application that you put in for the job, that should go through the gate. So there are different, that's a different type of challenge. So your CV or your resume should be linked to the job opening. Like when you apply for a job, don't just use a generic CV. Tweak it or tailor it based on the job opening, so that the experience that they're looking for, you are highlighting that part of your experience in your CV. And a lot of companies these days also use the automated software that basically filters out the CVs. They don't manually go through that. So read about that, and if you use those specific words that the employer needs in your CV, the software is gonna push your CV through. So that's the first phase of it. So you need to stand out in your CV or your resume department and tailor it in a way that it's mostly accepted in Canada. Like the kind of CVs that we used to have back in my country, I'll just give you my example. They are not entirely the same that we have here in Canada. So I had to tweak mine as well. So the first edge is this one. The second part of it would be to leverage your network. If you have any person that you know that's working in the industry, ask them to give you a recommendation, or if you are in contact with anyone like that. And when you come to Canada, try to volunteer or be a part of some groups, because that will show you that you are a part of the community, and that is helping you build your soft skill. When you come as an immigrant to Canada, all of us have the hard skills, like we know our fields. But the thing that the new immigrants are lacking in is the soft skill or the cultural part of it, how the Canadian workplace works. So when you volunteer or when you work in different jobs, even if it's not linked to your field, if you take a starting job, you get to know the culture and you get to know the people and you get that soft skill understanding. So that really helps the employer in a way that they'll say that, yeah, the person will adjust to the work field, and they'll be able to connect with the people who are working there already. So these are the 3 recommendations that I can make to the newcomers. And yeah, the final one, when you go for the interview, like if you get shortlisted and you get the call for the interview, you have to stand out from the other candidates. So in order to do that, you have to express yourself quite clearly. Your interview should not just be about your job. Like you should be connecting with the person who's interviewing at a human level, so that they get to see you as a person. So that will give them a versatile or diverse exposure to what you are, instead of just talking about your job. Just make it like a two-way thing. Just talk about your experience or who you are or what you like to do. So that gives you a personal connection with the person who's interviewing you. So that's what I can recommend.
Beautifully said. Yeah, so audience, we need to focus on, first of all, our CV, because it's the first thing that can get us into the door. And then also make sure that you tailor your resume, tailor it to the requirements. And also it's important for us to leverage our network. And one thing I want to add here is that it's not just about our own connections. Sometimes you can just co-emailing or co-messaging people, because people in Canada, they're very open to helping others. So don't shy away from contacting someone that you haven't known before. And also, as Asim said, volunteering, put yourself out there, put your needs out there, and also get to know the culture, the community here. And definitely with interview, try to make sure that you bring your personality into the interview as well. Bring your authentic self, so that the people can connect with you on a deeper level. Awesome, that's fantastic. So that leads me to my next question. Most of the newcomers, when they come to Canada, they tend to bring with themselves international experience, the experience they have accumulated or obtained from their home country or from any other countries that they used to live and work before coming to Canada. So how do employers in Canada see candidates' international experience?
So there would be two sides of the picture. One would be that how good your experience looks on the paper, and second would be how good you portray your experience as an individual when you interact with a person. So when you have the international experience, obviously it's on the paper. They're gonna read it and they will think about you like, yeah, you know these things. So that will get you through the first step of it. Because if you don't have Canadian experience, obviously you are relying on your previous experience, and how good you are putting it in the CV is gonna show the employee to give you a call. So when they give you a call, then how you present your international experience in communication with them is gonna give you the edge. So you have to link that international experience in a way that how it will be beneficial to the Canadian workplace of that company in which you are applying for. Read about the company and link your experience with some examples or some examples or what you had over there with what the company is and what they are looking for. So translate it in that way, and that will give the employer the comfort that you'll be able to connect with the workplace colleagues that you'll be joining. So the first thing that the employer is looking for, from what I can say, is that if they're getting 10 CVs and all of them have the international experience, all of them have good experience. So that's why those 10 CVs were shortlisted. The second thing that the employer will have is that when I get the person, how good will that person gel in with the existing environment? So basically, you have to show that in the interview phase of it by linking it, and that will help. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds really great. And in your experience, what are some of the most common misconceptions that newcomers tend to have regarding job hunting in Canada, and how can they overcome those misconceptions?
So I'll say the major misconception or the major thought process is that when you have you need to have Canadian experience to get a field of your job, a job of your field. So I don't find it to be entirely true. Yeah, it can be in some cases, but not necessarily you need to have Canadian experience to start in your field. People take different pathways. Some start with at least some starting jobs to get the Canadian experience and then transition to their field. That's the right way as well. But it doesn't mean that you must do it. I've seen people, I have friends and colleagues who got their first job in their specific field, like as it is. They did not have to start from other points. But obviously, not everyone gets that. So for that, you need to tap the tricks that are there in the Canadian market. But don't limit yourself. But just by thinking that if you don't have the Canadian experience, then you won't get a job in your field. You can definitely get a job in your field. It might not be at your level, like if you're at a senior position, you might have to start at a certain level. But once you get in your field, you can move your way up quite quickly, because Canada offers a lot of opportunities. Once you get in the industry, you can easily switch or move up the ladder in the same organization. So yeah, so I'll only highlight this misconception. Don't limit yourself if you don't have Canadian experience. Go for it.
Awesome. Yeah. So everyone, please listen to Asim. Be confident and carry your international experience confidently, because that's definitely adding values to organization, and go for the job that you like. Don't shy away. All right. And so from the beginning of the career talk until now, we have been exploring your journey and your experience as a candidate or professional navigating the Canadian market to get to where you are today. But I know that you have sat on both sides of the table as a candidate as well as a manager. So as a manager, I believe that you have already also been interviewing candidates for your organization. With that said, what are some key skills or qualities you look for in candidates when look to hire them?
So for me, the first part obviously would be that they should have the previous required experience that we are looking for to hire. So they should have that, whether it's in Canada, or outside the country. So when they have that experience, the second phase that comes to it is that how good of the communication skill the person has to express themselves in a way that it's easily understandable and clear. And the third part of it would be how much of out of the box thinking the person has. So for example, if a person is experienced really well in their field, I'm just giving you an example. For example, if a candidate has to be hired and they've got 10 years of experience in their field, and there's another candidate who has only 3 years of experience in that field. So in the interview, what I look for is that what's the problem solving capacity of the candidates. Sometimes a candidate who has less years of experience can have better problem solving capabilities. So that's what we look for, like the out of the box thinking. If there's a problem at hand, how do you utilize all your resources to handle it and communicate effectively? And how much of a passion or energy you put into it. So that's quite visible in the interview when that happens. So basically what gives the edge is the passion that the candidate shows and how much of critical thinking that they portray in their field to solve the problem. It's not about the years of experience, from what I'll say. It's about how good you utilize the experience that you have to progress in the future, to solve the problems at a professional level and at a personal level, because those versatile personalities are the ones that eventually become leaders and they grow. So that's how I see it.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing here, first of all, is communication skills, the ability to communicate our ideas clearly and easily for people to understand. And then another thing that I'm hearing here is out-of-the-box thinking or problem-solving skills or critical thinking skills, and also the passion that you bring to the table, just to make sure that everybody can see how passionate you are in your career, in your field. So that leads me to my next question, which is also one of my favorite questions for tonight, which is what distinguishes great candidates and good candidates, or in other words, what make a good candidate great?
So I'll stick to the same thing: the passion and the hunger that the candidate has, and the energy that they bring to the table. That basically distinguishes the great ones from the good ones. How good they are in portraying what they want and how clearly they're portraying it. And one of the important ones that I just one that just came to my mind. So when you go for a job interview, all the interview goes well, and in the end, it's really important for the person who is interviewing for the job to ask a question, and that question should not just be like a what do you call, like a book statement. It should be something that makes the person the person who's interviewing the candidate think. Like, it should make the interviewer think rather than you think. So that basically stays in the mind of the interviewer, and then they look at the candidate differently. So how you portray the energy that you bring to the table, that basically distinguishes you from the other candidates.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's one of the things that we tend to miss, right? At the end of the interview, people ask you, do you have any questions? And out of the blue, we can't think of any questions and we can panic, right? So it's really important for you to make sure that you prepare some questions. It doesn't just show that you are seriously invested in this opportunity and you're curious about the opportunity, but it also can show the show the employers that you are trying to gather much information as much as you can to make a decision. Because at the end of the day, an interview is a two-way street, right? As much as the employer is interviewing you, it's also about you interviewing the employer to make sure that it's a place that you can see yourself working for in a long term, right? So it's very important to ask questions and to prepare questions beforehand before coming into the interview. Fantastic. Now, this is no longer new information. It is pretty well known these days that the market has become incredibly competitive and tough, not only for experienced professionals, those with years of experience under their belt, but also for anyone who is joining the market, especially for early talent and fresh graduates. So with that, what advice would you give early talent or fresh graduates who are trying to break into the professional world and find their first professional job?
Okay, so the hiring for the fresh graduate or fresh talent is kind of different than the experienced professionals. One thing that fresh graduates or early talent should keep in mind is that when they're fresh out of the college or the university and they're applying for a job, the person who's interviewing them has been through that stage. So they know what it is like to be out of the college, the kind of knowledge or exposure that you have, and what type of challenges you're facing. So when you're in the college or the university and you graduate, obviously you don't have that much of a professional understanding of how things work. Like, you'll have basic understanding, but you won't be at that level. So you need to stand out in the crowd and you need to portray it. So how do you portray it is that your interview or your communication should not just be linked to your field. It should be linked to you. It should not be about your expertise, but it should be about you, like you as a person. Because when the company is hiring someone, yeah, they are looking for your skill, obviously, but more than your skill, they are looking at what you bring as a whole to the table. How will you bring the team together, or how will you interact with the people? How will you drive a change? How will you navigate through different situations? So you can take the example that you faced during your undergrad or your master's degrees, whatever education you got, and link it to the professional field in a way to portray how you used your skills to practically navigate during your tenure while dealing with your class fellows or your teachers or driving different projects. So you keep it diverse, and you show it in, like, you give different examples to show the diversity of your personality. So for example, if you are an engineer, you don't have to talk about engineering only. Like, yeah, you can, but what will give you the edge is that, yeah, you're talking about the engineering, but you know about some other topic as well that you're comfortable in talking about. You are good in making small talk as well, because you can get in the field, but the leaders or the people who basically grow in the long term are the ones who know more than their field. They'll have the basic level understanding of their field, but they'll build on top of that their communication skills, their networking skills, their problem solving skills, their people management skills. So basically that's what drives them, and this is the change that the company is looking for, that you'll bring in the long term. So they're just not looking at a subject matter expert. They're looking at you as a whole professional. So keep your profile diverse, get exposure that is outside your studies, get into co-curricular activities, also focus on them and take lessons from them and use them in your first job finding, when you go for your first job finding. So that gives you a diverse profile. So when they see a diverse profile candidate, they look at him as a future leader. That's how the organization see it. So that's what I can recommend.
That's such a great piece of advice. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. It's very important for us, for early talent or fresh graduates, to enrich your experience. And when we talk about experience, sometimes we think it has to be a professional job, it has to be work experience, but it can actually an university project, like a volunteering activity or an extracurricular activity at school that you are participating in order to build your skills and expand your experience. So yeah, this is such a great piece of advice here. So early talent and fresh graduates, please take note and please do expose yourself to as much activities and experiences as possible, because those will eventually pay off for your professional developments. Right, so let's go back to your field, right? Let's go back to engineering for a bit. How important is it to stay up to date with the advancements and trends that are happening in engineering to make sure that you can build and sustain a successful career in engineering in Canada?
Yeah, so staying up to date about the technical expertise that's happening around you, or the upgrades or the modifications or the developments that are happening, you should have the knowledge about that, so that you're aware of what's happening in the industry. Another thing to look for an engineer is to look at the businesses as well. Like, yeah, I'm having these technologies getting developed, but what's the business impact that's happening because of that technology, and what are the industries that are growing because of that, or sliding it away. Like, you bring to the table the technical knowledge, but if you have the understanding of the business as a whole, then that will certainly give you an edge, and that will give you the far-sightedness as well. Like, for example, if there's a new technology and you know about it, you know everything about it, and it's good, but if you have the business acumen, then you'll know in 5 years time or in 10 years time what that technology will look like, or how much growth is possible in that technology. Like, a technology might sound exciting, but it might not be efficient from a business point of view as much as it's looking technically exciting. So look at both aspects of it. So if you have that knowledge, you will certainly steer in your field in a really good way, and you will see how the world is changing and how the economic opportunities are coming before they come, and you'll be able to make those decisions of maybe switching a job or jumping a job or going for a different field in advance.
Yeah, that sounds great. And speaking of that, what about industry certifications? Are industry certifications important to build a successful career in engineering? And if yes, what sort of certifications would you recommend for your field?
So when we talk about engineering, the first certification that gets highlighted is the PEng, or professional engineering license. So that depends. So if anyone wants to go in hardcore engineering, they want to go design part of it or construction part of it, or any industry that's basically designing electrical equipment, mechanical equipment, or carrying out construction activities, major ones. So those industries definitely need professional engineers. The engineers who have the professional engineering certification from their province. Like there's one in Ontario, and it's a specific process to get that. I have friends who have been getting it. One got it recently, and some are working on it. So you have to provide your engineering background to the council, and you have to go through the examination and then an interview to get that PEng certification. So that's specific technical expertise that you need in that field. And that field is highly regulated. But not all engineers work in that field. So it's not like if you're an engineer and you don't have PEng, you won't find a job. That's not true. You can find jobs. Manufacturing industries, normally they don't need PEng. It's good to have, but it's not mandatory to have. So that depends from industry to industry. Another one, for example, is PMP, Project Management Professional. So that's also a good to have certification when you are dealing with the projects. That anyone who has that certification will get the edge. If I talk about the field of safety, the certification is Canadian Registered Safety Professional, CRSP, in Canada. It's a good to have, but not all organizations or all companies need their safety professionals to have CRSP certification. But the organizations that deal with the government, or they're like government organizations, they definitely need it because it comes in handy. So it depends on what area you want to target. Engineering is quite a diverse field, and a certification is not mandatory, I'll say. It's a good to have, but it also depends in what path you want to take. If it's specifically to the technical side of it, then you definitely need a certification. But if it's not, then you can make your way around. And if we talk about other fields, for example, the field of healthcare or doctors, nurses, that is highly regulated. So they need those certifications. So it depends from field to field. Yeah. So if that answers the question for engineering professionals, so it depends on your field where you want to go. And it's always good to have it. So once you're in the field, do get some certifications.
That's great. That leads me to the next question, which is also a question coming from one of our participants, Hannah. So Hannah asked, will you hire engineers with international certifications?
Yeah, definitely. I got hired as an international engineer with international certification. I did not have any in Canada, and I have colleagues who got hired and they only had international experience. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Now we are going to move to the Q&A session in a couple of minutes. But before that, I would like to ask you one more question coming from myself, which is also my favorite questions today. If you got to go back in time, to meet your younger self who was making his first steps into the professional world, what advice would you give him?
So for me personally, the advice that I'll give myself is that when I was a student, I just looked at things from an academic and non-academic perspective. I was just like, okay, this is the formula, this is the study, this is the field. So you need to know this. You need to have an understanding of this formula, this concept, and this thing. But that is not entirely true. What I found in life professionally is that more than the academic part of it, is the non-academic part that plays a role in your growth and your exposure and your expertise in the long term. So I'll say I was quite narrow-minded. So I would have told myself to broaden your horizon. Look at not just your field, look at other aspects of it as well. Look at the people part of it as well. Look at the team part of it as well. Look at it collectively, because that collectiveness is what drives growth, and that helps you in the longer run. Yeah. If that helps, if you get what I say.
For sure, that sounds really sweet. So give yourself the opportunity to explore as much as you can when you are young, and don't limit yourself to what you get to study at university or at school. So give yourself the exposure, and the more you expose yourself, the more you know what is there for you and what is right for you, right? That's beautiful. Now, let's move on to the Q&A. We did receive quite a number of questions from the participants today. A lot of the questions have been addressed throughout our chat today already. For instance, we had a question coming from Ding Vu. Ding asked, what special qualities are employers looking for in a foreign engineers? I believe that we have answered this question already. And then we had a question coming from Ivan Garcia. What is needed to excel in the labor markets? I believe that we have addressed this question a couple of times in our sharing also. And then Bill asked how to find a job in Canada for newcomers or fresh graduates. Again, we have answered this question. And there were two questions that really stood out for me. So the first question comes from Baraka Mitiwa. So Baraka asked, if I have not worked in engineering for 4 years after graduation, can I still find my first engineering job? What do you think, Asim?
So that would depend. So obviously, if you have not worked in engineering before, you have to take a fresh start. So it's same like you're fresh out of the college and you're jumping in the field. So obviously you have to take a fresh start, but I assume that you have not worked in engineering, but you've worked in some other field. So if you worked in some other field, you can switch to engineering, but obviously you'll have to start. Maybe you might not be able to start at the same level, but when you have to start, you need to have a good reason or a justification to provide to the employer that why you are switching and why you are making that move now. And it should be a good reason. I don't know what the reason is, but you can certainly do that. But that might take that might result in you taking an entirely different step from your career trajectory. Unless your career that you took after engineering is kind of linked to engineering, then you can do a smooth transition. But if it's not linked to it, then it's gonna be a different type of transition. But you can do it, and you should have a good understanding of why you are doing it, and you should be able to demonstrate it, that why you are doing it, and you should be able to sell it.
Awesome. Baraka, I hope that answered your questions. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to put that in the chat. The second question comes from Nguyễn Đình Phương. So Phương asked, before I moved to Canada in March 2023, I worked in Unilever for 5 years at Customer Development Division. Now I want to work at Unilever again in Canada. Could you show me how to apply or pro jobs at Unilever? Some volunteer or part-time jobs are okay too. I'm following hiring trends or hiring updates on the website, but it's not helping very much.
Okay, so I can answer that based on my personal experience. I'm not representing Unilever, just calling it out over here, but I can answer that based on my experience, what I had. So for me personally, I applied online, and I got a recommendation from Unilever Pakistan, where I was working before. I got a recommendation from them for the job opening that I applied for. Since you worked in the organization before, and when you apply for a job position over here, because it's the same organization, you can get a recommendation from your colleagues or your boss or your manager that you worked with before. So that will give you an edge. It gave me an edge. So that will give you an edge and will put your application through. But yeah, the only process is through the regular online application. And if you know anyone in the organization, they can make a recommendation as well. And yeah, then it's a regular process of hiring after that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your answer, Asim. Now I will give the audience probably a couple of minutes. If anyone has any question, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we will try to address those questions. So yeah, just take a couple of minutes if you have any questions. Otherwise, we are going to wrap it up for today. Okay, so yeah, we have a questions coming from Henry. So let me just unmute Henry. Just give me 1 second for you to ask your question. Okay, Henry, can you come up off mute and ask your question, please? Yeah, you're on mute, Henry. Yeah, I think you're good now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So, hello, thank you for your organization today and for your sharing, Asim. So I just have a question because I'm also in the supply chain and I have spent like mostly 3 months to find a job in Canada. And I just have a question about the reference letter. Is it very important to have a reference letter in the application or not? Because so far I'm trying to tailor my CV to apply for the job, but so far I haven't got any calling for interview yet. So I just wondering, is it because my profile, my experience in supply chain is quite strong. I have more than 15 years experience. However, so far I haven't got any interview yet. So just wondering, is there anything that helped me to make my profile more stronger?
Personally, I have not seen references put in the CV. Like in my country, they put the names at the end of the CV as a reference, but I've not seen it in Canada, at least in my role. What I've seen in my organization is that someone who's working in the organization, they can put in a referral through the company's online portal. So the organization that you are applying for, if you know anyone in there, they should be able to do an internal referral. Or yeah, that's what I think. I've not seen it written on the CV. I may be wrong, but I've not seen that like that over here. So that's what I can recommend. Would be the best way to go around it.
Yeah, I would like to add on this as well.
Yes.
So normally references are not required to put on your resume. However, here in Canada, most employers would like to do a references, like reference checks once they want to move to the offer stage with yourself. So it's important for you to prepare some references. It's not reference letters per se, but prepare to connect with some of your previous employers or managers or team members and ask them beforehand that once I get to the offer stage, can you be my referee? So that once the company wants to move forward, you can provide them with the reference details so that they can connect and contact those people for reference check. So normally they wouldn't ask for reference letters. They would like to speak with your referees directly. It can be over the phone or just via email. And a lot of companies these days, they use their own reference check software or systems that your referees just need to log in using their email address, and they can put in their references for yourself by answering those questions in the form or on the website, so they can sit anywhere in the world to do that reference for you.
So it seems
I hope that answered.
Yes, thank you. The question about because currently I'm staying quite far away from the big city, so I think to land a job in supply chain is mostly available in a big city like Toronto, Vancouver, or Calgary, or somewhere like that. So is it necessary that I need to move there? Because from here I cannot join any like networking event or to meet any HR person in person, because it's quite everything will be online. So should I move to the big city before I can land a job? Is it necessary or not?
So for that one, I can I can answer from my wife's perspective. She moved to Canada last year, and I'm living in a small city. So once she got her driving license and health card and all that, because driving license is a must-have in Canada. Since she was living with me in this small city, it was easier for her to get a job as compared to living in the Greater Toronto area, because there's a lot of competition over there and there's a lot of people over there. So in her case, it was easier for her to get a job in the small city. But that depends field to field. Like if it's my case, for example, since my field is a bit different, very different, I'll have to be close to a big city to look for those jobs. But if I'm open to relocation, I can tell the employer during the interview that even if the job is in that city, I'll move there in a week's time or 2 days. They'll be okay with it. So it all comes to that in the end. So it varies. So as I explained, for me it would be a different case, but for my wife it's a different case. So it varies based on your field and how the job market is going there.
Yes, I agree with you that some job maybe it will be easier to in the small city. Like my city is small, so it's very difficult to find like a labor worker. But however, the supply chain will not be easy at all. So it would be very depend on the job.
Yes, it would
I
be.
agree with you.
Yeah, in small cities, it's difficult for the employers to find employees as well, and it can be difficult for the people to find job as well. So it goes both ways. So it varies. So it's like a catch where the thing gets balanced.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. We do have another participant raising her hand. So Ivy, I know you have some questions you want to ask Asim. Would you like to come off mute and ask your question, please?
So thank you.
Hi, hi Asim and Van. Thank you for making this happen. I'm a product designer in the Greater Toronto area. So I'm not exactly an engineer, but I'm adjacent. It's really nice to get connected to you guys. I've been looking for a job, and along the way, I've received some conflicting advice about international experience. Some people have advised me to omit the locations of my past experiences from my resume to avoid potential discrimination. What has been your experience and opinion from this? I'm excited to hear from both of you if possible.
When you want to go first, or?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, to me, I think your international experience potentially could be your advantage as well, because with international experience, you are showing people that you have that diverse mindset. You're bringing a fresh perspective into the company, to the organization. And also, I think with anyone who has traveled, who has made a very big move and transition in their life, you bring with yourself that agility, the ability to embrace change, ability to face challenge, and you're not afraid to lean in and to jump into a new environment. And to me, that is the biggest advantage. And speaking from my experience, when I applied to my current company, my resume has all the locations that I have as well. My manager actually appreciated the experience that I'm bringing to the team, right? And I'm bringing it some different perspectives that could add to the pool of ideas of our organization and the teams. And to me, I think it's all about being confident with what you get to offer, being proud of the international experience that you have, and also just showing them with your confidence and belief that you are bringing something of value to the table.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
thanks, Van. And from my angle, I kind of resonate with what Van said. I remember when I was doing my soft landing back in 2019, I went to a few of the seminars that were organized by the agencies that help the newcomers. And I asked the same question. I took my CV to a recruiter or a person who was helping over there. And he told me that, mention your country on your experience. because anyway the employer would want to know that where you are from or where you're coming from, because they need to know that to get an understanding of it. And then how you play with how you portray it, that's up to you. But the information should be there, so the employer doesn't feel like some information is missing in the CV. It's kind of like an important information, right? So she told me that yeah, add it in there. So I added it in there, and I still added it in there. So from my end, yeah, it should be there, and it's about how you push your narrative through your CV, that okay, this is how this experience is benefiting you and how it's going to benefit the employer.
Yeah, thank you so much for your answers. I think both of your answers resonate with me a lot, because I think it's not like just about where you worked, it's how you portray yourself, and it's like the confidence and the attitude that you come in the interview, right? So I think, that's going to be my take moving forward as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. A great question as well. Thank you so much for asking that question. I know that a lot of people might have the same question like you, so thank you, Ivy.
No worries.
All right, I think that's pretty much it. We don't have any other questions. So thank you so much again, Asim. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, sharing your journey with us and with the participants. I myself personally have learned so much from you, and I believe that the participants have a lot to take away from your sharing as well. So thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. And to the audience, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much for asking questions. Here at SciTech, we aim to continuously provide excellent experience to our members, and that is why after this event today, I'm going to send you a feedback form where you can provide your thoughts on what we can do differently next time to create a better experience for yourself. And this is our first career talk, but it's not going to be our last career talk. We'll continue to organize events like this one in order to cover different topics in tech and engineering for you to learn from the industry experts and set yourself up for success. So if you haven't, please visit our LinkedIn page and click follow to stay up to date with our future events. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Asim. Do you want to give any closing remarks?
Yeah, thank you for organizing it, and thank you all for participating. And yeah, if there's any question or anything that comes up later on, you can always reach out to me and Van. And yeah, we'll be happy to help. Thank you for attending it.
Thank you, Asim. All right, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you all. You have a great weekend wherever you are in this world, and take care.
Bye-bye.